The Pacific Image, in association with Blind Congress, presents another T.L. Goodwin response, where he dissects someone else's video. T.L. thanks you for joining him. And now, T.L.
Hello, my name is T.L. Goodwin, and I have a problem with people who aren't equipped to distinguish what is true, and then spout whatever it is that they think is true without knowing whether or not it's true or not. In other words, this guy needs to be debunked.
Scientific studies are very clear. Religious people tend to be happier than non-religious ones. In this video, we will give you the evidence which proves this. Then we will...
I'm sorry, but you're not going to give us the evidence that proves this. Not only that, you don't understand, do you, that ignorance is bliss and that believing in a sky daddy is going to make you feel better. But that doesn't mean that there is a sky daddy, and that doesn't mean that you should. And you're going to talk about Pascal's wager, which is bunk, because, you know, it's just stupid. And you're going to say that atheists ought to spread Christianity in order to make a better world, just on happiness alone, which is just absolute just garbage thinking.
We'll give you 3 logical takeaways from these findings. And watch to the very end to learn what atheists could say to rebut the surface implications of these studies. Hi, my name is Todd, and welcome to Mission Millennial Z Alpha Generations, where we share the other side of the creation story with today's youth. Now let's get right into the evidence that I referred to here. And this is an AI overview of the subject.
I'm going to say so-called evidence.
Yes, religious people are generally happier than non-religious people.
Ignorance is bliss.
Though there is no single factor that determines happiness, and religiosity is not the only factor that contributes to happiness.
Wait, what did you just say? Did that make sense?
This is true in many countries, including the United States, Japan, Australia, and Germany.
All right, so it's a worldwide phenomena of fooling yourself.
Explanation.
Oh, not really an explanation now, is it?
Social connection. Religion can provide social connections and networks.
Yes, that's true. Religions can do that. It's called fellowship.
Positive emotions.
And let me tell you something about certain fellowships, right? Like in certain groups, religious groups, your fellowship will afford you sometimes survival, because who you know might be able to help you out with your certain problems within the church, extraneous to the church, of course. Let's say like you need rent money for a particular time in your life. They might be able to set you up with rent money or food or whatever, other forms of shelter. If you're a family, they might help your entire family procure a place to live, things like that. So yes, you know, belief in a sky daddy also like helps you out because you're now comfortable with reality. Also, there's the idea of belief in the afterlife, but we'll go into that later.
Religion can help people cultivate positive emotions like gratitude and health. Religious people are less likely to smoke and drink, which can contribute to better health. Civic engagement. Religious people are more likely to vote in national elections and be involved in community life. Belief in a higher power. The belief in a higher power that is watching over you can provide security and well-being.
Ignorance is bliss.
However, it's important to note that there are many factors that influence.
Yes, like colors, the availability of sunlight, whether or not you have shelter, whether or not you have a future, whether or not you have friends now, whether you have family.
happiness, and religiosity is not the only factor. For example, people who attended religious services regularly.
Okay. You're saying something about a non-religious factor, and then you go right into the religious factor without talking about a non-religious factor.
But had no friends in their place of worship were worse off than those who did not go to services at all. Now, there's a number of articles.
Hi, I'm a primate. That's what I am. In fact, I am the definition of a primate. And there are other forms of primates as well that have existed in the past and that exist alongside this particular form of primate. It is known, and it is a known fact amongst monkeys and amongst humans that if they aren't shown lots of love and care in their earlier days, then they will live shorter lives and not be as productive members of society. That's all there is to that.
Articles that go into a deep dive on this. This is just an overview. So let's just look at one of them right here, and we'll read a good part of this.
Note that he's going to an article by Deseret News. Deseret News is a religious publication. It is a Mormon publication. And anything Deseret is Mormon. Deseret Industry is Mormon. They're not like the best people to listen to when it comes to trying to figure out what reality is like or what reality is. They believe in some pretty weird shit. And I don't understand how anybody could be one of them. But yet there's a lot of people who believe in some really weird shit.
This one to get a flavor of what this is all about. And this article is called, "Are Religious People Happier?" The science is pretty clear. According to many studies over the years and confirmed in my new data analysis, religious people are, statistically speaking, measurably more likely to be happy.
Ignorance is bliss. I mentioned that earlier. It's the same thing.
By Stephen Craney. Debates about the impact of religion in the world have been going on for a long time. There is one facet of that debate, however, which scientifically speaking is largely settled.
That's kind of rich, scientifically speaking, coming from a Deseret News publication.
From the standpoint of statistics and empirical evidence, how much do we know about whether religious or non-religious people are happier?
Again, pretty simple. You believe in a sky daddy and an afterlife, you ain't going to care much about this one now, are you? You're going to be pretty happy about whatever happens. I mean, you're going to be comfortable in your own skin a lot more than if you realize that the world is a hellish place now, right? Devoid of God, devoid of angelic creatures and things like that, and even the supernatural itself. Once you put all those things aside, you might not be as happy as the blissful idiot who thinks that God's going to save them as they jump off a fucking cliff.
A lot, it turns out. The literature on health in general and religion is vast. An Oxford University Press book summarizing the research on the subject, for example, comes in at almost 900 pages. In the analysis in this handbook
Doesn't matter.
of religion and health, they
How
reviewed
many pages does it
326 articles on the relationship between health and measures of religiosity.
We have no
and
examples of the
subjective
paperwork.
well-being,
We don't know where those
happiness,
sources
or life
are, what they are.
satisfaction, finding that 79% of those studies reported that religious people were happier, while only 1% reported that they were less happy. The rest found no or mixed findings. Just because something is correlated, of course, doesn't imply causation.
Very much so. But you're now going to say, however.
So just because religion and happiness tend to go together does not mean that religion causes happiness. Yet, the same Oxford book
However,
found a dozen studies that were randomized controlled trials, the gold standard of establishing cause and effect, where people were randomly assigned to different religious interventions.
what does that mean? People were randomly assigned to different religious interventions. What does that mean?
And in more than half of them, simply assigning people to various interventions encouraged
What is assigning someone to a religious intervention even mean? Does that mean Joe Blow off the streets? They take him in as part of the study and they say, "You're going to go see a Catholic counselor." Is that what that means? What are you talking about?
them to be more religious led to measurable increases in happiness. The finding of a relationship between happiness and religiosity is so established that many research papers take it as a given starting point.
For what?
For example, a recent paper published in one of the most prestigious social science journals on whether religiosity makes it easier to deal with unemployment, it does with some caveats, states
because God will save you.
That it is a well-known research finding that in general the religious are happier than the non-religious. So how
Ignorance is
does
bliss.
anyone actually measure happiness? It's actually quite easy. Just asking people how happy they are has been shown to be related to a wide variety of other measures of well-being. So researchers can easily include a single question measure about happiness in a survey that is valid for research on the concept of happiness. We'll end there and we will link this article in the description if you want to read more.
No.
So, what are our three takeaways from these findings? One, and this might be kind of shocking for you to hear me say this, especially if you're an atheist, atheists should promote religion.
Why would an atheist want to promote religion just in the name of happiness? Most atheists like the idea of truth and provable facts and things like that. You know what I mean? Christians, they don't care about truth. They don't care about provable facts. They don't care about anything like that. They really don't care about science. If it goes against their religion, if they deem it to go against religion, then that's it. It's not part of their thinking. So why would any atheist want to promote Christianity or religion in any way whatsoever?
Studies have shown religious people are more happy. We just saw that. Healthy and productive too. We haven't got into those studies.
Healthy and productive too. What do you mean more productive? I don't understand. How can you quantify that?
Than their non-religious counterparts. It wouldn't hurt to take Pascal's wager, would it?
Would it? Yes. To an atheist, it would hurt to take Pascal's wager because then they wouldn't be an atheist. They would be an agnostic. And they would say, well, I just don't know if God exists, as opposed to, I have a pretty good idea that there's no such thing as God. And one of those reasons I have an idea is because we're human beings, we're monkeys, and we can make stuff up. In fact, we're the greatest species on the planet when it comes to making things up. We make up stories. That's what we do. We made up ghosts. We made up God. We made up angels. We made up minotaurs. We made up all kinds of stuff. I'm thinking about Pegasus and unicorns and pegacorns and stuff like that. We're good at making shit up. We know that. So why would we want to make other people believe in shit that doesn't exist just simply because we might be happier doing so? I don't see the logic in any of that.
Pascal's wager is basically you should live as if God exists because Not only will you, even if you don't believe God exists or you're unsure,
Now, why should you believe in God if you don't believe in God exists? You just made circular nonsense.
not only will you accrue the benefits that come to you
That is if a God exists and if there is an afterlife. This is bullshit.
in this life from doing that, and we just read some of them, didn't we? But
No, you did. We didn't.
you will get the benefits that come in the next life as well.
There is no next life. Prove to me that there is a next life. You can't. It's not possible. So you're living a fantasy. You're living for something that you cannot prove. The chances of you being correct are very slim because we're human beings and we make shit up, and you believe what some human beings made up.
So why wouldn't you do that? Like,
Well, why would you? As an atheist, you wouldn't. So shut up.
what's the guy's name? Jordan Peterson. He's a famous person now that if you ask him if he believes in God, he says, I ask if God exists. Meaning he's probably an agnostic when you hear him say stuff like that.
Jordan Peterson is a philosopher. He's not a scientist. He's nobody. He's just a guy who has opinions that talk about certain writers like Dostoevsky and Carl Jung. I don't know.
Atheist Sam Harris, in his debate with William Lane Craig about the moral values, Harris claimed the flourishing of human species is the number one commandment of atheism.
Well, just because a guy says a thing, but, whatever. It works in your favor when you do it. But I'm not going to take Sam Harris as 100%, speaking of me and atheism in my particular view.
To him, that doctrine constitutes the sole objective moral imperative of naturalism.
Naturalism. What's that, naturalism? Belief in the natural world, okay? And yes, truth is important in the natural world. He's right. But don't go screwing around with that idea. Really, don't. Don't say that just because you found a whole bunch of ideas in different places and they all came together saying what you want them to say, or that other people have manipulated it into something that you want them to say, that's any kind of measure on what reality is. You see, there's a schism between what it seemed like and what it is. And science is more apt to tell you the difference, while religion is less apt to tell you what is on a realistic level. Because one, we're talking about empirical evidence. Two, we're talking about faith, which is a lack of empirical evidence. What are you going to say, right? Of the two, one clearly wins. But not according to you. You think, feel good, therefore great.
Trumps everything else. So you would think Harris and Dawkins and all the new atheists would...
Oh, is Dawkins a new atheist? I think he's actually older than you are, and that he's probably been an atheist longer than you've been a religious individual.
promote
So that's really kind of an odd thing to say.
religion, since sincere religious people tend to...
And it also makes it sound like religious people are older and therefore wiser than atheists who are newer and therefore not as knowledgeable when it comes to reality. Which, what the
be happier, healthier, more productive. But they don't do they? It's just the
You never presented an argument about productivity, so why the hell are you bringing up productivity? You've got nothing to say about it.
opposite. In the God delusion, in fact, Richard Dawkins calls religion the root of all evil.
And here's why. It is a series of lies. It is manipulation of the masses. it is definitely manipulation of the masses, and that idea alone is enough to call it the most evil thing on the planet, because we want reality. Everybody who adheres to empirical reality wants you to adopt empirical reality. And because you are shrouded in your veil of religion, you're never going to be able to see what reality really is. Therefore, you will guide the world into irreality, because that's what you want to do. You want to destroy atheism, for instance. You want to destroy Darwinism, which isn't an ism. It's ridiculous. All in the name of something that you guys made up and continue to make up.
He said the world would be better off without religion.
He's right.
Well, the science proves him wrong.
No. The science just proves that you guys are in a blissful state that you have created yourself based off centuries and centuries of not thinking.
The new atheists should be promoting religion if they truly follow the science as they claim.
No, because the science doesn't say anything about religion being true. You know it. I know it. Quit trying to gaslight the world, people.
Instead, the new atheists are, sadly, on a crusade to destroy religion.
Old atheists alike. It has absolutely nothing to do with the current population of atheists. We have had atheists since the very beginning. In fact, some of our founding fathers were atheists. Sure, some of them weren't, but some of them were. Most of them were guided by intellect.
And that's a confession that they make, that they are on that crusade. 2, the second takeaway, the Bible is correct. About religious activity and being happier.
The Bible says that people who are religious are happier. Show me where.
The Bible says loving and serving God and your fellow man are the basic commandments in the Bible that sincere religious people live by.
I don't remember any of those being part of the commandments.
The Bible says the commandments to love God and your neighbor are, quote, for your good. And
Let's just pause at this face for a minute. All right, I'm done.
that all will go well with you. Jesus said, happy are ye.
Is there any proof that Jesus said this other than the Bible, which isn't proof?
When you obey his commandments.
Who the hell is he to command anyway? Son of God? Prove it. Prove that there is even a God, that there could even be a son. You can't. All you can do is say, some guy said something once. You can't even tell me that that the people who wrote the particular books in the Bible were the people who wrote the particular books in the Bible that they say they're written by. You can't even prove that.
So these studies are a direct confirmation of the promises of the Bible.
No, they can't be. There is no proof in this.
Simply put, these studies, at the very least, and that's all I'm saying here, at the very least, for now, lend credence to the claims made by religious theists.
Yeah, but for all the wrong reasons. You guys believe in a bunch of horse shit.
Say, for argument's sake, let's flip it on the theists here, that religious people were the most miserable of all people.
They often are.
Just say the studies found that. Then that would be a strike against the claims of the Bible. I would readily admit that if that were the case.
No, probably not. You could probably claim that atheists don't want religious texts to be true and therefore are turning a blind eye to the truth. But that's not the truth. The truth is the opposite. You guys are turning the blind eye to the truth because you believe in a bunch of shit for faith's sake alone, and so that you could feel good, or that you can, pass that information, or tell other people how to vote.
Now, number 3, and I want to make this very clear. These studies, the third takeaway, these studies do not disprove atheism in and of themselves. To be clear, they do not disprove atheism and prove theism. An atheist has a logical way to get out of the implication of these studies. He could simply say something like this: of course atheists tend to be more depressed. That is because they are realists who recognize they are without hope in this world. Once they die, they will cease to exist. They will never see their loved ones and their pets or anything that made life worth living ever again.
All right. That whole thing, you're right, until you start editorializing about what it is that makes an atheist unhappy. That might not be it. We just, I might be an unhappy atheist because there's a whole bunch of people who believe in a bunch of bullshit that isn't my bullshit, and they're trying to rule my life based off their bullshit. That kind of makes me unhappy. You know what I mean? So you've got it. You're editorializing right now.
It will be as if they never...
And I'm editorializing right now. That's exactly what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm not trying to convince people how reality is. What I'm trying to do is convince people that you don't know what reality is. You've got no proof of any of the things that you say. So you shouldn't really be adhering to those things that you cannot prove. It's that simple, and that's how other atheists feel about the matter. A lot of them. I can't speak for every atheist, but I can say that we really do wish that you would come to the realization that what you believe is untrue. Because once you do that, you liberate yourself from the feelings of guilt and all that kind of crap, and you become probably a much better person. I can't tell you for sure, but I can tell you you probably become less judgmental about those people who are different than you are.
Existed at all forever.
Unless you find that they're fooling themselves, in which case that might bug you.
Lose consciousness when they breathe their last breath. Now,
let's revisit this whole thing that he just said, because I've been talking over it. Let's see if I can get back there far enough. All right, let's try it from here.
Or depressed. That is because they are realists who recognize they are without hope in this world. Once they die, they will cease to exist. They will never see their loved ones and their pets or anything that made life worth living ever again.
You're assuming that seeing your pets after you die, or your loved ones or whatever, is what makes life worth living. Wow, what a limited, pessimistic view you adhere to. Because as an atheist, I don't give a shit about my past life or whether or not I see my cat again. That doesn't matter, right? What matters is today and tomorrow. I've got things I want to contribute to the world. Now that just means that I have a creative process, a creative drive, and I want to continue to be creative. I would also like to steer people away from irreality and toward reality. You know what I mean? And clearly, that's what motivates me to even talk about you at all, is because you're full of shit. And I'm here to tell people that you're full of shit.
It will be as if they never existed at all.
No, that's not true. If you do good stuff, meaning effective stuff, you won't be forgotten. You could live an entire life being wonderful and doing great things, and still, no one's going to remember you when you die. Doesn't matter. Just doesn't matter. How the cards fall just doesn't matter. Whether or not people will listen to my music or see my art after I'm dead, if I become someone to collect or someone that gets ignored and thrown in a landfill, it just doesn't matter. You know? I, on the planet, have done a lot to help people deal with their lives in a very positive manner without being a Christian, without guiding them toward any kind of religion at all, just by being a nice, kind, accepting human being.
Forever. So they'll lose consciousness when they breathe their last breath. Now,
Why is that a problem? Why is the idea of dying an issue for you? And is that the only reason that motivates you to be a religious person, is because you're afraid that when you die, it'll all be over? And so you have to adhere to an idea that you will be alive after you die so that you can continue with everything good in the world? Well, that's like, you might as well freaking shoot heroin, because there's no difference.
who wouldn't be depressed given the cold, hard facts of atheism?
The cold, hard fact of atheism. Yes, we believe there is no God. We believe that there is no life after death. What the heck's the problem with that? I mean, really, you have to justify your life by the life you're not living? That makes no sense at all. The life that you're going to live someday? All right. You're led to believe what you believe because of the way your brain works. But if you were to change the way in which your brain perceives stuff, you might not any longer have that kind of impetus, right? You might actually adjust to a different reality. So, I have things that I want to accomplish in my lifetime. That's enough for me. What do you have? What are you doing with your lifetime? Just trying to indoctrinate people into your own view of existence? No, Pascal's wager. It's Pascal's dumb. Okay, if he wagered that, like, oh yeah, let's believe in God just because, even though I don't believe in God, which doesn't make any freaking sense, because of what might happen in the afterlife, which doesn't fucking make any sense either. Whatever.
That's the atheist still speaking. Lenin said religion is the opium of the people.
That's a very good interpretation, because usually it's interpreted as the opiate of the masses. What you said was way much closer to truth.
We atheists are brave enough to stare death in the face without flinching. We don't need the drug of religion.
Right?
Now, Richard Dawkins says it quite well in his book, The Blind Watchmaker. He summarizes the atheist dilemma quite well in this candid quote. In a universe of blind physical forces and genetic replication, some people are going to get hurt. Other people are going to get lucky. And you won't find any rhyme or reason in it, nor any justice. The universe we observe has precisely the properties we should expect if there is at bottom no design, no purpose, no evil, and no good, nothing but blind, pitiless indifference. Now, imagine you're a child and you're raised.
Oh, wait a minute. Yeah, Dawkins is right. Okay, now he's right completely on what he had just said. Now, what you're going to do is say, oh, imagine a life in which this is true, and why would we ever want to indoctrinate our children into such misery? Come on, reality's reality, and you ain't got it, buddy.
Based on a bedtime story like that, what kind of effect would that have on you?
Instead, you want to adhere to a book that says it's okay to freaking throw rocks at your wife until she's dead because some guy looked at her. Slavery's fine. Killing in the name of the Lord is fine. Multiply over and over and over again. Rape of slaves is fine. Rape of the people that you dominate is fine in your little warfares and stuff like that. No, your idea of a reality in which you are born into sin naturally and you must repent to the Lord of this sin that this Lord gave you is much bleaker than anything an atheist would ever present to a child. Okay? You've got it all backwards and incorrect.
What kind of effect would that have on your psyche? you'd be more likely to be depressed.
Oh, lordy, lordy, lordy. Ignorance is bliss, right? All right. Well, hey, thanks, Todd, for such a wonderful diversion from reality. I appreciate it, and thank you for this wonderful bit of crap. Yeah, right on. Thank you.